Hey there, welcome to Tiger Drop Films. Today we're gonna have a little bit of a different video. I'm gonna talk about my predictions for Like a Dragon Gaiden. Now these will include story spoilers for many other Yakuza games, so if you haven't really caught up yet, then don't watch this video. But for the sake of the predictions, I'm going to talk about what I think will happen in Like a Dragon Gaiden, who I think will appear, and so on and so forth. So first things first, we know that this is going to take place after Yakuza 6, but before Yakuza 7, and another part of Gaiden's story will occur between 7 and 8. So during the story is going to be a bit of a time jump, but let's start where we will begin. The teaser trailer showed that the game's going to take place in 2018. And we see Kiryu at some kind of monastery, and what fans are calling Monk Kiryu. And we see he's going by the name Joryu, and is going to be a bodyguard, like we see in 7. So, let's talk about, the elephant in the room, which is the ending of Yakuza 6. So Kiryu fakes his death for the sake of Haruka, Haruto, and the rest of the kids' morning glory. So now we're at Gaiden, which will take place 2 years after the ending of 6, and Kiryu is obviously still laying low. He's supposed to be dead. He's taken the name Joryu, and from what we see in the trailer, he seems to still be working for the Fixer and his men. And I don't know if the Fixer is alive or if it's just his people that are still keeping Kiryu under watch as Joryu, but we're gonna, find out more about that. But when it comes to my predictions, let's look at Yakuza 5, right? Kiryu's whole part in that game, the first part of Yakuza 5, he's living as Taichi Suzuki, as a taxi driver. So if we look at Yakuza 5's Kiryu chapter, I feel like we kind of got a taste of what Gaiden is going to be about. It's going to be about Kiryu living under a new name, and trying to lay low. And I can't wait to see what they did, because Yakuza 5 is one of my favorites in the series. And Kiryu's chapter in that, it's depressing, it's melancholic, it's even dreamy, dare I say. But I think we're going to see a lot of Yakuza 5 Kiryu in this, at least with his attitude and his behavior. I also think that because one thing about Yakuza 6 is that it really built off of the ending of 5 and even kept that sad feeling of the story, for lack of a better term. And so I think we're definitely going to see that continued here in Gaiden, at least for the first half of the story from my understanding of translations. And so for my next prediction, when it comes to Haruka and Haruto and the other characters such as Yuta and the Morning Glory kids, I don't want to see them outright. Now let me explain. I don't think they should show them, because I know a lot of people are scared of 6's ending already being undermined of Kiryu's many new appearances, but I think RGG knows what they're doing. Let me explain. Because if they're going to show Haruka, there's many ways they can do it. Could be a flashbacks only, right? Or maybe some kind of scenes of him just Kiryu remembering Haruka. Because as we see in the trailer, he's still hanging on to his family, which is only human for him to do. Yes, he made a big manly sacrifice in 6, but Kiryu is still human. That's what makes him a true man, in my opinion. He's able to do what's right, but he still shows pain, which is understandable, and it's okay to show. So, I don't think we're going to see Haruka outright, maybe a flashback, or maybe even Date bringing her up and checking on her for Kiryu in some way, because obviously Date knows Kiryu's alive, so I expect we'll see Date in some form, in a minimal role, but I believe we'll see Date. Because who else can check on Haruka but him for Kiryu? As we saw in Yakuza 7, Watase contacted Kiryu to help when they were disbanding in the Tojo and the Omi of Daigo Dojima. I believe that we're going to see Watase and Gaiden in some form. Because by the way he acts in 7, he clearly knew Kiryu was alive, but he of course puts on a face and is like, hey, I don't know that guy, I just thought we needed help, extra muscle. So I expect to see Watase in this in some form. Now in Yakuza 7, it's revealed that Watase went to prison in 2017. Maybe Kiryu visits him in prison, because you know, how else would Watase get that information in such a short amount of time? Or, which, you know, brings to my next point, that are we going to see events of Yakuza 7 from Kiryu's perspective? And that could be how they fit the Watase scenes in, you know, we see a little bit before the big Omi Alliance fight, or afterwards, because remember, in 7, we hear the news about an off-screen fight, where Kiryu, Saejima, and Majima were protecting Watase and Daigo from assassins at, I believe, a restaurant. So, yeah, in Gaiden, it's possible they're going to give us some fan service and we're going to see Majima and Saejima and Daigo for a little bit, but I wouldn't expect to see them a lot. Because, of course, they're still going to develop this Joryu narrative, and we gotta remember, it's not going to be a super long game. I believe in interviews, Yokoyama said it's going to be around maybe 10 hours, or at least longer, definitely longer than the Kaito files. The content's going to be content adjacent to the game we have. So don't expect a super, amount of content. Maybe one major side activity, like we're apparently getting some form of cabaret clubs, stuff like that. You don't expect lots of cities, and maybe just the one new one we're going to get, and the monastery. We might be able to go to different places, just that are story-specific areas. So for the next prediction, will Kamurocho be in this game? Well, it's hard to say. I personally don't want Kamurocho in this game just because it's a side game, and it would feel kind of weird for Kiryu to be in there after 6. And I know this might be the biggest departure yet in the series and not include Kamurocho in some form, but we gotta remember, in Lost Judgment and 7, Kamurocho is only in the story for a little bit, but not too much. So I believe at this point I can definitely see Gaiden just maybe only having a small story area in Kamurocho, but not let it be explorable. I'm sure Gaiden's going to have a decent sized map for us to navigate, but just don't expect anything super gigantic. But who knows, I could be wrong in that. For my last prediction, it's going to be what I call wrapping the bow. Now, what I mean by that is, Yakuza 8 is definitely, most certainly going to be an Ichiban Kasuga game. I mean, yes, I know the new trailer showed Kiryu with that J-pop haircut, but it only makes sense for it to continue Ichiban's story. Now, of course, that game is going to be gigantic, so who knows what kind of crazy magic RGG is going to pull off, but we gotta remember, there's also a reason they're making this Kiryu spin-off, right? To give people what they want, some more Kiryu, and I'm okay with that. Now, there's that meme of Kiryu going, I don't know how much more character development I can take, which is pretty funny, and I believe Gaiden's going to wrap the bow on a lot of Kiryu side characters. Who could this include? Well, the cabaret minigame could give us some more, like we can have so many side characters from throughout the series reappear that get a little bit more of a send-off for Kiryu. This could include Kamaki, Kamiyama, even Yuya, and maybe Kazuki. Because remember, in Yakuza 5, they showed Yuya when Kiryu was still Taichi Suzuki. So I could totally see them pulling that shenanigan again. So yeah, I believe they could wrap the bow on a lot of Kiryu characters. And as I said previously, we could see some parts of 7 from Kiryu's perspective, i.e. his scenes of Saejima, Majima, Daigo, Watase, and maybe even a little bit of Sanghu. As we saw that he still didn't let her, she knew who Kiryu was, but he wouldn't let her say his name out loud. Because clearly Kiryu is still working with the Fixer at some point. So in Yakuza 7 we know he's working for the Fixer, in Gaiden we know he's working for the Fixer, which makes me believe Gaiden's going to be about some kind of antagonist that is involved with the Fixer. And who knows, this could all spill out over into 8. There's definitely going to be something major going on behind the scenes to create the biggest threat in the Yakuza universe yet, but we'll have to see. But for a major villain in Gaiden, I wouldn't expect anyone super like out there, because by the time of Yakuza 4, Kiryu is the apex legend in the Yakuza universe, which is why villains such as Aizawa, Iwami, or even Daigo being an antagonist in 4, clearly they were outmatched by Kiryu, but they were still able to craft an interesting story for these characters and how they can still be a threat in a different way. Because think about it, the fight with Aizawa in 5 led to 6 happening. So I would expect the villain more akin to maybe Ibushi from the Majima Saga, or even Kyoya Sadamoto from the Kaito Files. We know the Kaito Files was about 10 hours long and was able to create not only a pretty interesting antagonist that built on past Yakuza characters, because the Kaito Files was basically a semi-remake of the original Yakuza in its structure at least, and story elements. So I think if Gaiden's going to be a little longer than that, we can definitely see an interesting villain that, don't expect a whole lot of screen time like the past major Kiryu villains, but they're still going to make some kind of impact and they're going to be a threat in a different kind of way. For all we know, this could be about Kiryu protecting Haruka, kids, by keeping his identity a secret from this villain. But yeah, let's not forget that Gaiden translates to side story, so while this is a side story, it's still going to be sold as its own game, so it might be a little cheaper than the other Yakuza games, but I can't wait. It's going to be more Kiryu, a new area, and it's going to put a new perspective on the franchise, because I admire that Yokoyama just didn't want to tell fans what Kiryu was up to, they wanted to show, and I appreciate that. And I guess for my last quote-unquote prediction, I hope Gaiden becomes its own side stories for Yakuza. I would love to have an Akiyama story. I think I speak for everyone, because wouldn't it be cool to see what Akiyama was up to during 7? And one I really want to see is Saejima as a teacher. Wouldn't that be great? I want to see that. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a quick prediction. And I think by the time we're really close to Ishin releasing, I can't wait for that. Hopefully I get the steelbook for that. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Tiger Drop Films out.